Good morning. Here we are again. I'm driving to the training center this morning, go teach some new recruits. I love teaching new recruits because they're excited for the job. They're eager to be there. They want to learn. So they're not real salty about getting after it and doing some shooting or some fighting or whatever we're doing today. And that gets me thinking about just the common question, why get into law enforcement? And then more than why get into it, why stay? Like, why do I still do this? Because that's a question we get asked a lot now these days, right? And I actually tell recruits, new officers, people I'm training that get used to that question, right? People are going to often ask you, this is kind of a weird time to get into this line of work. So why are you here? Why are you doing this? And if you don't really have a good answer, you shouldn't be here, right? So when you're getting hired, during interviews, it's a common question, like, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to get into this line of work? Everybody kind of develops the pat answer. I want to, make my community better, or serve my community, right? I want to help people, and those are all great things. Everybody that gets into this line of work wants to do those things, but you got to have some kind of deeper driving reasons to stay here and continue to do this. Talking with some of my coworkers, often will sort of come to the conclusion that there's something wrong with us for continuing to want to be here or to need to be here. Not like we're crazy. Certainly there's a rational calculus to continue to do this to some extent. You invest a lot of time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears into becoming proficient at doing this job. And so, it's kind of a big ask to get into something else. But frankly, myself and the people that are still here are here because we still can't imagine ourselves doing anything different. Which is to say, there's something about us that requires that we be here. It's a part of who we are. That I am the type of person who, when faced with a problem, is not going to pawn that problem off on somebody else, but I'm going to take ownership of that problem myself and work to address or resolve or mitigate that problem, because that is who I am. That I have a deep and unresolvable drive to personally involve myself in these issues and try to make things better. So that's part of the reason why I'm still here. And I think that's got to be the reason. This job is it's not just a job, it's a calling, it's who you are. And even if you weren't in law enforcement, you're still going to be the kind of person who invests in their community and takes ownership for their community and works to address those issues, regardless of whether or not you're getting paid to do it. People dump on the career a lot now, even people in the career, and there's people who need to not be in the career anymore because they have some kind of internal conflict about continuing to do the job, which is totally understandable. But at least for me, having done this 10 years now, that's always been the atmosphere that I've been working in. So I started in 2011, right around the time that the Occupy protests were really in full swing. And I was actually going to the State Academy while there were big demonstrations downtown. And there were people saying awful things about the protesters, and I had friends that were out there protesting who were not, just, I want to be delicate how I say this, but it weren't how people on the right stereotypically maybe portray protesters, right? They're hardworking, competent, professional people who are passionate about, speaking out about an issue that they saw. And so knowing that and getting into this line of work and feeling that conflict from the beginning is just something I've always had to acclimate to since I started doing this job. And so people, even then, were like, wow, this must be a really hard time to get into this line of work. And, kind of my retort was always, well, I never signed up for this job expecting parades every day, right? I mean, even under the best of circumstances, nobody likes to see a police car in their rearview mirror, right? No one's ever pleased to see us, genuinely, unless it's just kind of, we're at this coffee shop and somebody's walking by and wants to say hi, which is fine. But in general, like, if we're having some kind of professional encounter with somebody, they're not having a good day, right? They would prefer that, at a minimum, they would prefer that our presence wasn't required, or oftentimes they would rather we go away and not involve ourselves in whatever's going on, regardless of whether we need to be there or not. People don't like us parking in front of their houses. People don't like us driving behind them. They'd rather go about their lives with their head down, doing their thing, blissfully unaware of what's going on around them, and, not having a second thought about whether there are police officers and why they may or may not need to be there, and what they're doing and the things they're dealing with. So that's not new to me, although certainly in the last few years, things have maybe been at their lowest ebb as far as how we're perceived and whether people want us around. Regardless, I don't want to live in a society where there are not people like us who are willing to go do the dangerous thing, risk their life and potentially lay down their lives for complete strangers. There's partially a selfish reason to that. I can't be everywhere all the time. And if, my loved ones are out and about and something happens, I want there to be somebody like that who is going to step in, who's going to face the danger, who's going to risk or lay down their life for my family if I'm not there. And there's a just profound nobility, and I'm not talking about myself per se, but about the profession generally, when I say there's a profound nobility in somebody who's willing to take those risks and make those sacrifices for individuals who are strangers to them. And again, there's something about us, there's something about me that says I can't ask that of someone else if I'm not willing to do that myself. And so if I want a world where somebody is going to be willing to die to protect my family, then I have to make that choice. I have to be willing to take those risks and make those sacrifices to create the kind of world that needs to exist, that my family requires to continue to live long, happy, healthy, safe lives where they can prosper and thrive and continue to live the kind of life that I had growing up, where it was in relative safety and peace and security, where I had the opportunity to choose my path and, create the kind of life for myself that I wanted to have. And that's not a guarantee, right? The vast sweep of human history is, a tale of life that was nasty, brutish, and short, right? And the rule, rather than the exception, was violence, brutality, and chaos. And only, at the longest, the last few thousand years, have we had civilization and rule of law and some sort of, order set in place to where it's not, just constant warring, hunter-gatherer tribes, and honor culture and reprisals, kind of like we talked about before. So that's why I'm here, right? Because I have to be, because I need to be, because it's a part of who I am. And so when people say, well, law enforcement isn't a race, there are no blue lives, that's true. I was not born a cop. It was something I chose. But by the same token, the profession chose me, because this is who I am. And maybe there's some nature versus nurture there, right? Was I born to it? Was I, socialized into it? You can never know precisely what the split there is percentage-wise. But ultimately, regardless of whether or not it was a choice to be here, I am here now. It is a part of who I am, and it is not separable from who I am as a human being. I mean, you can take me out of the patrol car, you can take me off the street, you can put me in an office, shuffling paperwork, but who I am is not going to change. Fundamentally, the way that cops look at the world, interact with people, and perceive things changes, and that's something I have to explain to new recruits and help them understand so they go into this eyes wide open. The way that you deal with people, the way that you perceive things is going to change. Who you are is going to change. And then the people around you, people who are your friends, people who are your family, may not like the person you change into. Which isn't to say that you're becoming a bad person or a, unlikable person, but when you change, the things that people liked about you, that dynamic changes. And that's unavoidable when you're a different person. And to some extent too, who you are in your 20s, your early 20s is different from who you are in your early 30s. And hopefully you are changing regardless, right? We all grow and mature as we get older. And relationships come and go, and people change, or, move locations and whatever. But there's that extra layer to it when you get into this job. What we do matters. And I think that's something that's really hard to find in any other line of work. Like I said, you can take me off the street and out of a patrol car, but who I am is going to be the same, even if you stick me in an office somewhere. And again, that's the reason I have to be here, is because what we do matters. It's hard for people to see the meaning in the actions they take when they are, selling widgets, which is not to deride people who sell widgets. We need those people. But when I do my job, I interact with somebody on the worst day of their lives, dealing with whatever thing, and the choices and the decisions I make are weighty. They have impact. It profoundly affects the course of their life sometimes, for years or maybe beyond, depending on how I interact with them and what, the purpose of that interaction is. But the things I do matter in a way that, in a concrete and visceral way that you just can't really point to in a lot of other jobs. And so your purpose and your reason for being here is clear. It's important. It matters. And you can't find that in a lot of other careers. So I don't think everybody should be a cop. Clearly, society would not function with all cops. Some people are not constituted to perform this job, even if they have a desire to do it for whatever reason. And just frankly, some people have no business doing this job. And part of what I'm doing when I'm training new folks is weeding out the people that don't belong here, because they can't do it, because they can't do it safely, they can't do it ethically, or they can't hack it emotionally, and it's going to destroy them. They need to know what they're getting themselves into, because they're not going to know until they get here. You can try and explain it to somebody all day until you get here and you actually deal with it. Hopefully people that are getting into this career do their research and talk to people and go into it with their eyes as wide open as possible. But even that, it's not something you can truly understand until you get here. So that's why I'm still here. And now I am going to teach new folks skills they need to, survive in a critical situation. And that's meaningful too, right? To be able to mold and shape and train and equip people to do the job that I'm doing, right? Like, part of the reason I said I'm here is because I cannot ask others to do it without being willing to do those things myself. And having done those things now, I've got the what's the word I'm looking for? The credibility as a mentor, a teacher, an instructor to say, this is what you need to do to survive this job. This is what you need to do to be successful. This is what you need to do to be effective in performing these tasks. And so in doing so, I help create that world that I want to have, to where there are those folks who are willing to take those risks and make those sacrifices to protect the people that I love. It's really hard to find a career where the things you do, the investments you make in people that you're mentoring or training are that concrete, where I'm equipping and sending out people to go and protect the people that I love and to make the world a better place and try to mold them in that ideal image of the model officer as much as possible. Anyway, that's all I've really got for today. Thoughts, questions, let me know. Drop a comment down below if you watch this. What should we talk about? What is interesting to you? Peace.